Hello and welcome to part 2 of Will's Weekly Wonders, the cricketing special. Now for the second part, following on from last week looking at overall statistics across 2020 internationals, we wanted to take this a step further and provide cricket commentators all over the world with an easy to digest report that they can generate themselves to make their calling all that much easier across the game. They don't have to spend time preparing, they can sit back, relax and enjoy the game knowing the information is going to be provided for them. Now, the way that this is done is within the Alteryx server. So we created a collection for all our cricket commentators to access. Steve Ward did us a favour of creating that. In some of the users, we can see those that are currently making great use of the app that's being built, some of the best callers across the game. Now, for all of them, they've got access to this commentary report. And what they're able to do is as soon as they can hit run, they can define all of the characteristics of the game they're going to watch. So, for instance, the ground that it's being played at, and the two teams involved. So in this case, tomorrow morning, England play Sri Lanka at the SCG to determine who's going to go through to the semi-final. So if you're calling that game, they can hit run and get all of that information in seconds as you've just seen. Now, once that's been produced, they get this cheat sheet and this report directly to them that they can read out during the game. And it's built in an order of progression of what's likely to happen. Starting out with some information, some general facts. It's between England and Sri Lanka at the Sydney Cricket Ground. But starting things off with specifics about the SCG. Par score 162, highest ever total 221, and there has been one super over before, maybe something to look forward to. Some statistics about the toss, what teams are most likely to do at this ground. It's a pretty even split between teams that are electing to bat or bowl first and actually the impact that has on who's going to win the game. We then start to see the split across the two teams. So for instance, England, 66% of the time they'll elect to bowl first. But actually when they do, it's an even split between whether they're winning or losing. And in fact, the lower proportion of selecting to bat first, but they have a higher win percentage, maybe something for Jos Buttler to factor in. Looking at how the two teams stack up, both have played a similar number of games, but England overall have won more. Then when we compare the two that have played each other, 13 times, and England coming out considerably on top here, nearly 70% of the games won. As we progress down, it then starts to pull out some key players across each of the individual sides. Starting with the batters, Jos Buttler and Hales being pulled out for England based on their strike rates, averages, and the total runs that they've scored. We can start to see things like the number of sixes they've hit. And in this case, Jos Buttler hitting most of his sixes in the third over, maybe some early fireworks. Across the bowlers, and in a similar vein, we can see the amount of wickets they're taking, their averages, strike rates, when they're taking wickets. For instance, Mark Wood, majority of his being caught. Now, on to one of the best bits that I found is our next ball analysis. Now, what we've got here for each of the batters and the bowlers is that I can say for Jos Buttler, when he hits a six in his current ball, there's a 14% chance his next ball is also going to go for six, and a 15% chance that it'll go for four, and then just a 3% chance that it'll be a wicket. Again, really exciting. They can make it seem as if they know exactly what's going to be coming up, and a good way to get some insight into there. Now, from a bowling perspective, again, interesting to find out what might determine a wicket that's going to come up. So, for instance, Mark Wood has been hit for 4 67 times, but actually 10%, the next ball has been a wicket, and nearly 28% a dot ball. So finding out these areas that for the different players they might want to focus on. If you're a batsman, what's Mark Wood likely to do if he's been hit for a boundary? Maybe I need to defend, I don't want to go out. Now, the real benefit of this comes is in this ability to then go and rerun it. So, for instance, the semi-finals taking place at the Adelaide Oval, India and New Zealand look pretty much set to be going through, is that I can go through, update those variables, and again, within seconds, I'm going to get that report dynamically generated. So all of that information is updating. For instance, par score at the Adelaide Oval, 182. All of the stats around the Indian team, the toss choices they're making, the difference in the batters and the bowlers that are going to get pulled out. Now, you'll notice here is that whereas in the England report, it was an England pair from bowling and a batting perspective, this time when selecting India and New Zealand, we're saying that the batting influence and the player to watch out for, Rohit Sharma from India, whereas from New Zealand, we're looking at Lockie Ferguson from a bowling perspective. So, within this app, you can provide it to any commentator, any fellow cricket nerd such as myself, and within a matter of seconds, provide it round the teams you're interested in and get this lovely report to go and do whatever you like with to make great calls and to enjoy the cricket. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.